And welcome back to Hypetrain. I've got another reaction coming right at you from the Sam O'Nella Academy channel on YouTube. If you've not ever looked at it, I highly recommend it. Me and Kevin have taken a look at a few videos now, and I've got another one for you, and this is called Creative Weapons of the Medieval Era. Sounds intriguing enough. Haven't got a clue what it's going to be about, but that's the fun of it, ain't it? If you haven't done so already, be sure to smash the subscribe button. And other than that, I don't need to dribble on. We just need to see what this is all about. So let's go for it. So it's weird how that music in there.
Hey kids, when most people think of the Middle Ages, they think of them as being like humanity's dumb teenage years, where all we did was play harpsichord in our room and burn heretics with our friends. But that's not entirely true. In fact, I would argue that the medieval era saw just as much genius as any other period in time. It's just most of that genius went towards finding new and creative ways to brutally slaughter those you disagree with. Here's a few highlights. First, we'll talk about the War Wolf. So, as you can imagine, medieval castles were not easy to break into. They were basically like those jungle gym things at Chuck E. Cheese's, massive in size, intentionally confusing layout, security everywhere, and by the end of your visit, you'd probably end up with some kind of disease. So in order to help penetrate fortresses, medieval armies would often utilize siege weapons, one of the most popular of which was the trebuchet. Now this device is interesting enough on its own, but it gets better. So around 1300 AD, King Edward I of England was in the process of invading Scotland. However, one fortress, known as Stirling Castle, was giving him a lot of trouble. He laid siege to the building for many months without any real progress. Then one day he woke up and had a revelation. Hey guys, listen, why are we wasting our time building all these regular sized trebuchets when we could just build one giant one and call it a day? So that's what he did. This gargantuan war machine was known as the War Wolf and stood at around 6 stories tall. To give a bit of perspective, this is about as tall as King Kong was in his largest film depiction. So basically, picture a giant fucking ape launching boulders like they're baseballs, and you've got a pretty good idea of what the War Wolf was capable of. It was so intimidating that when the Scots saw the English constructing the beast outside the castle, they immediately surrendered out of fear. But then Edward was like, ha, fuck that, I'm gonna test this bad boy out, and proceeded to take pot shots on the castle anyway. Another devious product of the Middle Ages was a flammable substance known as Greek fire. Contrary to popular belief, Greek fire was not invented by the ancient Greeks. Rick Riordan, you lying prick. It was actually invented in the 7th century AD by the Byzantines, who happened to inhabit Greece at the time. Historians still don't know exactly what it was made of, but they do know that it acted a lot like napalm, sticking to ships, sticking to people, even floating and continuing to burn on the surface of the water. The Byzantines also had these siphon-like tubes that they'd put on the front of their boats to pour Greek fire on the enemy, kinda like makeshift flamethrowers. These were retired pretty quickly though, mostly because when you put the words makeshift and flamethrower next to each other, you're bound to run into some problems eventually. Our next bright idea comes from a woman known as Olga of Kiev. So Olga was a princess who ruled the area around the capital of modern-day Ukraine from 945 to 963 AD. And she had quite a track record for being just a total badass. For example, the Drevlians, a tribe of people under Kiev's control, once sent 20 men to Kiev in order to convince Olga to marry their prince, under the pretense that if they did marry, the prince could claim her rule over Kiev. In response, she had all 20 of them buried alive. She then sent a letter to the prince saying she accepted his proposal, but she would need a bunch of his most distinguished governors to escort her on the journey. Once the men showed up, Olga was like, hey guys, long journey, huh? How'd you like to take a bath in this here bathhouse? They were like, yeah, sure, that sounds great. Okay, have fun, you guys.
Yeah, I was waiting for that.
Man, it's like a sauna in here. It is a sauna, dipshit. You have a point. So long story short, this lady just did not give a heck. My favorite story about her starts with her besieging a Drevlian city that refused to pay tribute to her. The people in the city were already well aware of the type of rampaging that Olga was capable of, so they were already scared shitless. But when she showed up, she was like, alright, you know what guys, I'm gonna play nice. Just bring me 3 pigeons and 3 sparrows from each household and I'll be on my way. Okay. What are they for exactly? We're just hungry. I mean, we got some food too. We could just give... I'm sorry, did I fucking stutter? Alright, birds it is. Then, once the creatures were in Olga's hands, she had each of her soldiers tie a cloth-bound piece of sulfur to one of the birds' feet, which was then set alight. The birds were then released all at once, and when they flew back into the city, their nests acted like little piles of tinder, resulting in nearly every house in the entire city erupting in flames simultaneously.
That's clever.
And while the whole place burned to the ground, Olga just sat and watched. By the way, it's
Eating
worth
popcorn.
mentioning that
Don't think so.
after her death, Olga was canonized as a Catholic saint, presumably around the same time as Saint Tiffany, who went around pushing in the soft spots of babies, and Saint Jerry the Goat Fucker, who, as the name implies, fucked a lot of goats. In conclusion, pay your taxes. To my loyal subscribers, I'll see you in 3 months. I'm Sam and Nella, and thank you for watching.
I've never actually heard of, was it Jerry or whatever, but that last one, Olga, right, that woman, I don't know if you've heard of this, that kind of rings a bell to something that happened in World War II. There was actually, like, obviously everyone, or most people know about the atomic bomb and how obviously that was the way of trying to defeat Japan and bringing an end to the war, but there was actually some other top secret stuff going on about how they could invade or actually destroy Japan, and one of them was to do with like bats, something like that, and it rings a bell. It's going to be something, they were going to get bats like swarmed in there and do something. I don't know if they're going to set fire to Japan, but I can't remember what that's called. I'm going to have to look at it. Maybe you heard of it, let me know in the comments. But the rest of it going in there, yeah, that bit with the castle, I've heard something about that before with the siege weapons and whatever on Stirling Castle. And Edward was a bit, well, he didn't seem to care. He just wanted to try it out, didn't he? I can't remember what that weapon was called, but that's pretty darn big. It was like 6 stories high. Could you imagine that? Being on the top of that castle and seeing that coming after you. You wouldn't want to be around then. But anyway, let me know what you thought of the medieval... what was that? The medieval era weapons, so to speak, in the comments below. Is there any others in there that you know of that weren't actually mentioned by Sam and Nella? But no, that was quite a short video. I didn't mind taking a look at that. As I mentioned already, whack anything you know down below, especially that thing about World War II bats thing. I might have to take a look myself because that does ring a bell. And I know there was something to do with Genghis Khan or something. They did something as well, similar on the kind of same lines. But anyway. Yeah, if you're still here, thanks for joining me, and I'll see you real soon.